through the eyes of a traveler.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So I rarely do this, but I'm going to throw it out there. Please, if you do consider subscribing and drop me a comment. I promise I will respond to every comment. Now, this is the TRK 502X. It's been through the wars. I've taken it through the Karakorum highway, up to the mountains, to the Chinese border. I'm currently in Pakistan. I should give you that a little bit of information. It's taken some beating, and it's given me some beating. Its design is reminiscent of a BMW GS, but I guess most adventure bikes now have that type of design. It's kind of a trademark for adventure bikes. What can I say? It's designed really well. It's got beautiful lines. It has lots of pluses, lots of minuses, lots of positives, lots of negatives, lots of advantages, lots of disadvantages. I will not hold back in sharing them with you. Though this is owned by me, I won't hold back. I own quite a few motorcycles, so I try to be as honest as possible. Though I must confess, I have to throw in a caveat, I do love motorcycles. So there is that. Anyway, getting back to the bike. I'll do the review, but I'll also be riding the bike and talking through the bike with you.
Hello world. So today we're off on another journey, a long journey, but en route I'm going to review the TRK 502X, and I thought what better terrain to review this bike than on potholed roads, sand and stone infested dirt tracks, and that's what I'm going to do now. So let's talk about the bike generally first. It's a large bike, 235 kilograms to be exact, so it's not light. It's quite tall. I'm 6 foot and my feet don't firmly rest on the ground. They're pretty firm, but to say the sole completely touches the ground, I'd say I'm probably off a little, a quarter of an inch on the heel. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're riding on tarmac, it's not usually an issue, but when you're riding dirt tracks and sometimes you do have to brace yourself with your legs, it can potentially cause a problem. Right, so this is, you can't tell from the camera, but there are lots of bumps and grooves in the road. In terms of suspension, it's absolutely fantastic. You can't feel the bumps. You don't feel that you're riding on something that's normally would knock a bike left, right and center. This feels quite smooth. It's basically designed to do what it says. It does what it's written on the can. It's an adventure bike, and you can tell that they've gone out of their way to try to make this something that will compete with the Japanese and all of the Germans and all of the companies that produce adventure bikes. Now, I'm not saying it competes and it beats them. It doesn't. It falls a little short, but a little short against a Japanese or German bike. It's pretty good going, I think. So I think they're doing well. Badovich. Sorry, I was just somebody I know and he wanted to talk, but I think with the journey ahead I need to get on my way. I've got a journey of about 150 to 170 kilometers to get to my next destination, which isn't much, but it's you have to be careful when your journey, actually your full journey, is way longer than this. So sometimes what happens is when you have a long journey and the day journey is quite short, you push yourself, but you really need to look at the long journey rather than just the short journey. Oh, anyway, getting back to the bike. I'll do that often, so you'll have to bring me back. So yeah, potholes, like here's a pothole, I'll go over it. You don't feel it at all. Here's another pothole, which is a deeper pothole, and you felt that, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The other thing is the seat of the motorbike is so well padded. It's I think you could do distance on this without feeling your bottom go numb or sore. So that's so far what I'm going to say about the bike. I'll continue after I'd say this short intermission, but that's a lie. I'm going to hit some rough terrain, and I think talking whilst concentrating on the path might be a little dangerous. We'll see. So here we go. It just feels you want to push it in places where most bikes you wouldn't push, because the bike just skids and slips and does whatever. But to be honest, I wouldn't push this too much because of its weight. And a normal bike, when you push it and something goes awry, something goes wrong, you can usually pull yourself back. This one you probably can too, but at 235 kilograms, that's a heavy weight. That's basically GS 1200 territory, yet this is only 500cc. So you have to be very careful, and that's what I'm trying to do or be, though naturally I'm quite reckless. So let's hope that I stick to the plan, and yeah, let's hope I stick to the plan. I think that's about it really. So we're going to now come to softer sand, and this is where the tires sort of give way, but so far it's, touch wood, it's doing well. You have to reduce the speed, but you know, it seemed comfortable. The other thing is, what you have to keep in mind is, because of its weight, it sort of does firmly sit on the road or even on sand, and so lighter bikes will slip away because their weight is less. But I'm about 100 kilograms and this is 235, so we're looking at, you know, 335 with the luggage, probably around about 400. So we're coming close to half a ton, and that's a lot of weight. Well, when I say half a ton, I've obviously flexed the figures by 100 kilograms, but I'm sure you'll excuse me over that exaggeration. So here we go, another jump, and oh, I felt that one, but it wasn't difficult. It wasn't like, wow, you feel the bumps and all the way through your spine. It's just you know, it's just a situation where you're not even uncomfortable, you're just wary of the fact that was just a not smooth part of the road. So it's all good. So far so good. I'll give you the you know, people want to know the compression rate, the distance between the wheels, the movement of the forks or suspension, and I will give that information, I promise I will. But right now, I think what a lot of adventure riders or bike reviewers do when they review adventure bikes is they rarely take them on a route where there is adventure. They rarely take them on or ride them in places where, you know, that's what they were meant to do. So by riding an adventure bike and giving a review whilst you ride it on the road, you're not really doing justice to the bike, and your review is somewhat, I'd say, I don't want to use the word lame, but I'll say it's without full purpose, shall we say. So that was a really big jump, and I went up in the air and I realized the front tire left the ground and it landed, and it didn't feel uncomfortable at all. So so far so good. 500 cubic capacity, 500cc. Many overseas will have issue with that because they'll say it's just too small a bike for the kind of terrains that you want to take, especially or with the weight being at 235, you know. 500cc coupled with the 235 weight, I can see how many people would say, sounds interesting, but I'm not sure how successful it would be. The truth of the matter is that it is a smaller engine, and it is not a BMW 800 or 1200 or a Triumph 800 or 1200 or a Honda Africa Twin, which is probably a different type of bike anyway, 1000cc. It is slightly different. It's a lower cubic capacity bike, but then I think if you're starting adventure riding, then 500cc is more than adequate. And the truth of it is, when you adventure ride, you're not going at top speeds, you're going at slow speeds, and you want throttle control, you want good braking, you want something, if you're new to it, you want something that looks the part and rides the part. And this does both. It ticks the boxes, not with a very thin tick, but a good, bold, thick, fonted tick. You're going to get everything you want from an adventure bike at a price which is, I'd say, a fraction, at least half the price of a, you know, well-known adventure bike, whether it be BMW, whether it be Suzuki, whether it be Yamaha, whether it be Honda. You're just going to get something that's worth way more in terms of value for money with the Benelli. Now, Benelli, we know, most people who understand Benelli know that Benelli is Chinese. It may have an Italian name, but it's made in China. What I would say is those that buy Benelli motorcycles in Europe have the added benefit of having those bikes shipped to Italy, where quality control is undertaken, and only until the Italians are happy, which I'm not sure how much weight that adds to it, does it go further and move on to the European market. With regards to Benelli and Asia, I think the European quality control factor does not factor in, but having ridden other Chinese bikes, I'd say if this is a Chinese bike, which, let's be honest, it probably is, it's the pinnacle, it's the top end of Chinese bikes. If this is an Italian bike, it's probably the bottom end of an Italian bike. If you compare this with Japanese, you're going to fall short, but you're only going to fall short a little bit. And when you factor in the price point, then really it's not a question of falling short, it's a question of knowing what your money can get you, with the style, with the ability, with whatever it offers. And this offers a lot for the money. So I'm not gonna say that this is competing with the Japanese or the Germans, because it can't. But if your budget is limited to, say, in the UK £5,000, or in Europe 6,000 euros or 6.5, and in Asia whatever that equates to in dollars, so we're probably looking at about $7,000, $7,500, then you're not going to get a Japanese bike with all these added extras for that price. You won't even get a Japanese bike for half that price. So you have to bear in mind that this is value for money for what it is, and what it is not something that's really competing against the Japanese. Only reviewers will try to compete it against Japanese and fail miserably. But if you just accept that it isn't Japanese and it is something that is best of Chinese or worst of Italian, then you're going to be okay, and you're not going to feel that you've been let down by the company in any way. So that's how I would put it. That's how I would throw it at anybody who potentially wants to buy a TRK 502X or a 502 even. As lots of people will know, the engine on this, the 500cc, it's not just sitting in this bike, it's sitting in its full range, it's 500 range. So the Leoncino trail and road bike also has this engine, which I did a review of, as I own that bike also. And also the 502C, which is the naked sportster cruiser. I'm not sure what really tag it has, but it also has the same engine. Now bizarrely, this is the heaviest, yet this does the best fuel economy over all of them, and I don't know why that is. Maybe they've sort of rejigged the cogs on the wheel, or maybe remap the engine in a way that it would suit more fuel efficiency over power, yet also adding to that insult to injury, that it actually is as fast as the Leoncino. In fact, I think when it was checked, it was faster than the Leoncino. So better fuel economy and heavier by far. I think over the Leoncino, this is 60-65 kilograms heavier, yet it's faster and it's more fuel efficient. I don't know what magic they've entered into at Benelli, but they're doing well. Right, so for now, folks, I've taken so much of your time. I'm gonna switch off and I'll continue the review with some more riding later, and also a walk around, because it's very interesting to look at this bike when you walk around. Though you'll notice that I don't like walking around, I like doing reviews on the road. It's far better. But before I go, I just wanted to add this. There's no vibrations other than, you know, the vibrations that the tarmac here is offering through the wheels, but even that is literally non-existent. It has power, and the one thing I liked about this bike is that if you don't drop the gears and you don't increase the gears, each gear's range is phenomenal. It really is. I mean, I was riding this at 110 and I was still in third gear, and the rev meter was not showing that I was overdoing it. So I would say it has a great deal of poke in every gear, and that's a nice thing to have. Obviously lower gears, it has more throttle power and poke and torque and acceleration, but the higher gears are not so indifferent that you would say, oh my god, it's got no power. So yeah, other than that, signing off for now. Enjoy the view for a little while longer.
Right, folks, past most of the broken road. I'm not sure if there's any more further along. There probably is, but we've got a nice clean stretch and I am absolutely shattered. I think the distance that I'm covering is a bit too much for my broken bones and broken body. However, I've got to get to a station. I've got to get to a place where I can shoot off the next day, and also where there's accommodation that's adequate. In other words, where I can charge up electrical devices. I mean, I'd love to find a little campsite here. I wouldn't mind sleeping out in the open.
So I continue on my journey along the Karakorum highway. There's parts of this road that are treacherous. This part isn't so dangerous, but with the twists and turns and the traffic following no rules, it can still be quite dangerous. So the bike got a good run in, was tested well, and it tested me as a rider. And I think that's one thing I will point out. When you get this bike, it is slightly daunting, especially if you're new to adventure riding and you're new to big heavy bikes, because a lot of people wouldn't necessarily choose to buy a 235 kilogram bike. They would go for something lighter, which makes sense. But when you get on the road, you don't feel the weight when you're riding in normal adventure or long distance territory. So in other words, clean tarmac roads of Europe, America, Australia, and most parts of Africa, I would say. Asia is a different kettle of fish. I think you get some roads that are really fine, and then some that test the nerves to a point where, I don't know, they start fraying anyway. Back to the bike. Once you straddle the bike and you ride it for a while, and you get used to its idiosyncrasies, you get used to the weight. It's actually a very nimble, very throttle orientated bike. When I say throttle orientated, I mean the throttle control on this is absolutely magnificent. So folks, in kind of concluding, I'm going to say this has been a bike that I had reservations over, but after riding it, I'm extremely happy. And for that reason, I'm going to sign off, say goodbye. I'm showing you the back of me. And I think that's about it for the day. It's a wrap. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you can. I hope you can anyway. And this is the Benelli TRK 502.